right, here we go. Welcome to another episode of the Keep Making Podcast. Today on the podcast, we have Jennifer Bonwill. Jennifer Bonwill is the brand manager for Pro Marine Supplies. Pro Marine Supplies sells epoxy for all sorts of different things. I want to ask you about your business. I want to ask about you as a person, but I kind of want to start at Pro Marine Supplies. So for people in our audience that doesn't necessarily know who you are, maybe give us a little spiel about Pro Marine Supplies and what you guys do.
Sure. So we sell tabletop epoxy, and we also have a 5-to-1 marine grade epoxy. We started the company around 2015. We actually started in the boat repair business.
Okay.
My dad and my brother actually started posting listings online through eBay and Amazon, and they started to realize that there was a need for the products being on the market. So they manufactured the epoxy, and that's how it started. They got the listings up on eBay and Amazon, and they sold a little bit here and there, and kind of for a couple years, just they were doing the boat repair and selling online at the same time. 2017, they decided to end the boat repair business because they were doing so great on e-commerce.
Wow.
And that's when I joined the business in 2017.
Okay, so they started it because they were serving a specific problem when it came to boat repairs, and then very quickly the sales online outpaced the need to even do that kind of work because obviously e-commerce took off. When you joined the business, this podcast is all about people that create their way through life. Did you have any experience in the e-commerce and or marketing world? Because this is a big theme that I kind of touch on. Most of the people that end up doing certain jobs might not have any experience in that job before they actually enter it. But they have the skill set that's actually required, which tends to be like the ability to solve a lot of problems, to be forward thinking and work at a relentless pace that can kind of overcome any problem. So when you entered in 2017, what were you doing before that?
Absolutely. So I had no formal education in marketing. I have taught myself everything when it comes to social media marketing and management. At the time, I owned my own spa business.
Okay.
So I was working as an esthetician, and I was working by myself. I was marketing my business, and that's really where my passion grew for marketing. I could not wait to get done for the day and go home and work on my website and work on my Facebook ads and get more people back into the business. So I started realizing the passion is really with business and with marketing. So when I was given the opportunity to come in for Pro Marine Supplies, I kind of took the reins and ran with it, because at the time they had no marketing, they had no customer service, and it was really a clean slate to work on.
Okay. Sorry, Danny just popped in. For those of you that are curious, she opened the door and was waving goodbye to us. So you had experience actually because you had run your own business with it, but you fell in love with certain parts of that business, and that's where you're like, I can do this in a different capacity entirely. Were your brother, father, right?
Yes.
So your brother and father. Oh, thank you, Jordan.
Thank you so much.
Did they just trust you outright because of your knowledge in these arenas? They're like, oh yes, you've got this, or was it like a learning curve of like, hey, you got to trust me with these things. These are going to really help us grow the business like crazy.
So I actually came on with the company, and it was part-time at first.
Oh, really?
And all my brother wanted me to do was to help write technical articles, because that's what they needed at the time.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. I didn't even know this.
Yep. So that's where I started. I started part-time, and it very quickly blossomed into full-time, because I came to them with ideas about how they could grow their business. They had an email list of customers they weren't even retargeting, and why aren't you on social media? You need to get on social media. There were people using our hashtag on Instagram. We didn't even have an Instagram page.
Isn't that crazy? So when did you guys start your Instagram?
Within a few months of me starting with the company, I started an Instagram and a Facebook page.
Okay. And this is 2017?
2017, yeah.
Okay.
We probably had about 1,000 tags for hashtag Pro Marine Supplies on Instagram.
When you started it?
When we started
Holy
it, yeah.
cow. So there, obviously the you had a really great problem there of just like, hey, we just really need to be here and actually start engaging with the audience that is already existing.
Absolutely.
That's really cool. So, in 2017 to now, you guys have grown like crazy. And all of that I would attribute to what you guys have been doing from a marketing standpoint and your ability to make things hyper efficient online. Can you talk about that process and how you figured out going down that road? Because obviously the business wasn't always just about the social media side or the e-commerce side only. It started as boat repair, and then like you had to like whittle away at it until it was like, oh, hey, we've made the engine that you kind of have now.
Right. So also in 2017, we did another major thing that really helped the business. We had probably about 500 products at the time, anywhere from gel coat repair kits to pour foam, and we were selling sticks and cups, and we just had a complicated list of products. And to go in and to market all of those things, it was really difficult because you weren't targeting one market necessarily, you were targeting a lot of different markets.
Right.
So we looked at the products that were actually selling, and sure enough, it was tabletop epoxy and it was marine grade epoxy. So we took those 500 SKUs and we cut them down to 2.
Wow.
So
that's one that takes a lot of guts. I mean, like, I don't know if that's not normal for businesses to be like, hey, by the way, we're not going to sell any of these things. We're going to put all of the eggs in these baskets so we can actually focus.
Yeah, we did have a little bit of pushback for the few customers that bought some of the other items, and they had to find a different supplier. But in the long run, our business almost immediately doubled because we started marketing to the epoxy market because that's what we were selling primarily.
Okay, awesome. So obviously there's realms of like customer service that get involved here when you guys are obviously marketing online, but once that kind of takes off, you're interacting in real time with people online. It's not something it doesn't turn off unless you make a dedicated time for it to turn off, that kind of thing. How did you guys navigate those waters? Because a lot of, I mean, I could speak for Alumilite. Alumilite has legacy content. They were making content for it on YouTube in 2008 and 2009. So they've been on YouTube forever. But they would get so inundated with so many comments in the past that they would have to shut them off because they didn't have the infrastructure to support thousands of people asking them questions online at that time.
Right.
Things have changed dramatically now, but that was, way back then. So how did you guys navigate those waters? Because obviously there's different needs that kind of come up in those situations.
Yeah, so as I said, we didn't really have a customer service department when I started with the company. We had one person answering our customer service emails. At the time, we had no phone support, and she was working part-time. She would log in randomly throughout the day whenever she had time, whether it was 6 a.m. in the morning or midnight, and she would answer the emails. So as we grew, obviously the customer base grew, and my thoughts were we need to streamline this process. We need to make it more professional because we need to have regular business hours because customers were getting used to just being answered at all hours of the night, on holidays, on weekends. Yeah. So that was step number one, is let's set our customer service hours 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And then we slowly started to introduce other ways to talk to our customers. We were responding on social media. We started live chat. That was our next step. And then a big decision was phone support because to throw someone on the phone with a product as technical as epoxy is a little bit scary.
Right.
We still have a bit of a training process that people have to go through before they get on the phone. But we quickly grew from one customer service rep to now we have 4 full-time reps.
And that's probably just only bolstered your guys' success when it comes to, I mean, it's clear. You keep having to add people because there's clearly a need there. But beyond that, it probably just gives you more credibility, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Have you gotten any of that kind of feedback?
Yeah, so one thing we talk about a lot on social media and something we really market is our customer service and our technical support, because you can pick up the phone and talk to a live person. You can chat with us, you can send a Facebook message, and we will get back to you that day. And that's something we're really proud of.
That's awesome.
Is our ability to get back to people, and there's no backlog of tickets in our system. We handle everything, and we clear everything out by 5 o'clock. And the next morning we start again at 8, 9 o'clock, and
Get to it.
yeah.
That's awesome. So you just tapped into something that I'm kind of curious about, because these are practices that I think not every business does. There's a caring that kind of comes from this that has to be led by example, and you're the leader of this brand. Is this something that's kind of always been this way? You were in the service industry before this. Is this something that did you get this from your parents, where this idea of actually taking care of people and treating them properly and helping them and all? I mean, not every business is good at this. A lot of people say they are, but their actions don't always back up what they say. So for you, do you have any idea of where this all started when it comes to like, hey, I actually want to take care of our customers. I want them to feel like they can talk to a real person. They're not going to be shuffled around on an endless like dial pad that's just monotonous and wastes hours. Where is that something that's always been in you, or how'd you find that?
I think I've always worked in the customer service industry.
Okay.
So I've had a taste of what makes customers happy and what doesn't. And, you know, it really speaks in the reviews that we get and the people that are happy about the service. And if it works, keep going with it. You have to serve your customers. They have to be happy, and they will tell all of their friends. And when you're on social media, with any company nowadays, you cannot have any negative stuff on social because it will spread like wildfire. So you need to make sure everyone's happy. If we ever have a customer that's got an issue, we have a plan. We always follow up with them. It doesn't matter what the issue is about. We never want to leave someone with a negative taste in their mouth about our company.
So where does that at a certain point, someone might be like, well, you can't please everybody. So for you, why do you keep pushing to make sure that they're all happy? And I know that it leads to business results, and I kind of forget the numbers.
The numbers are what's important, though.
Okay, yeah, but is that? I mean, for you, is that the drive? I'm super curious because like they're twofold, because you can be really you could take care of a lot of people by taking care of yourself at the same time. So is that it for you when it comes to like how this is good business to actually do this? This is very practical to be this available to people. It's actually not, because some people might think that's a waste of time. You're not going to be able to do all of that. But the reality is actually it's super good for us because it has huge effects on our bottom line. Is that that's what I'm picking up. But is that true?
The drive is absolutely the business and the reviews online, and especially with Amazon. It's really important when you're selling on Amazon. I mean, that's a big player in our business. You must be at that 4.5 or above star rating. You must have those key performance metrics in place. And you really have to strive to be the best one out there, because if you aren't, you're not going to rank.
Yeah, there's a lot of noise out there. Okay. So that's kind of great, because I've been super curious, and I haven't actually been able to ask you these kinds of questions. And some people's are like, I just really love to help people. And for you, like, it's like, this is just really good business. Yeah. And that's what I'm hearing. And that's really cool, actually. What I hear is that you're just a good businesswoman, which is pretty awesome. So your dad obviously started his own company. You had your own company before you started at ProMarine. Were you always building businesses as a young woman? How did you kind of get into this? Because I'm assuming, what were you doing at 18 that kind of led to this kind of path?
Well, first of all, I grew up with my dad always owning his own business. He was always self-employed. So that originally was a really big dream of mine, was to be self-employed. I found a different way to grow the passion now within Polytech of my marketing skills. But at 18, I was actually in the medical field. So
really?
Yeah. Yep.
How did you fall into that? So let's go back to the origin story. Let's take me back to those things and how you kind of arrived here, because everybody's path is super different. I was a English lit major and a philosophy minor in college, and now I lead a content team. It's divergent
totally
paths.
Separate, yeah.
Yeah. So they complement each other at the end of the day, but like you wouldn't really go like, yeah, that guy's gonna lead a marketing team.
Right.
When I was in college. So You were in the medical field. How'd you fall into the medical field? Was it like, hey, this is...
When I was 16, I took a CNA course, and my first job was at a nursing home. And
Oh, wow.
I worked with Alzheimer's patients.
Oh, wow.
And then I actually got into the EMT emergency services field and also 911 dispatch. So
Holy cow.
I did that for a while. I did some volunteer firefighting, and yeah, it's totally different market from where I'm at now.
Holy cow. So you were a volunteer firefighter?
Yeah.
I had no idea. Okay. I want to ask you about your daughters, because you do talk about them a fair amount, and as any mom would. Is there any drive for you when it comes to, much like your father, when he always had his own businesses and you had your own dream of owning yours? Is that something that you think about, like, I want to show my daughters this by, like, lead by example? Is there any drive in you in regards to that?
Absolutely. So they are my biggest drive, obviously, as your children always are. When they were younger, I was a single mom, so I was always driven to, push further and go harder and be successful for them so they can see and be raised by a strong woman.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. And they're 12 and 14 now. Have you seen any signals yet? I know they're young, so obviously they're at peak. I'm assuming they might be beginning to, like, test the boundaries as, like, teenagers or preteens. So, but have you seen any drive to maybe, like, go into their own path when it comes to their own business, that kind of thing yet?
My 12-year-old wants to be surgeon.
Oh, wow.
So
that's next level. Yeah.
Yeah. And my 14-year-old, she's a competitive dancer, and she wants to run her own dance business.
So, yes, what you're saying is yes, they definitely both have a bit of, like, that already.
They're pretty driven.
Cool. Well, that's pretty awesome, because they obviously have someone that kind of led that by example. So, this is one of the questions that I like to ask. I asked Mike Quist this, I asked Mike Foppel this, I asked Jonathan about it. Like, so if someone that is, like, going into your industry, what would be some advice that you would give them if they were, like, starting their own business, or if they were leading their own brand? And obviously it's different levels for everybody and the advice they'd want to give them. For me, it's really, at the end of the day, I'm like, you need to lead with kindness and empathy and understanding for people, or else you're going to be dead in the water no matter what you're doing. So if you're going to tell my editor, Eric Heemstra, what to do if he was going to have your job, what would you tell him as advice to, like, get ready to do it?
Sure. So I would say have a great network of people with the same mindset. Make sure you're talking to other business owners or people in that position, and that's number one. You really want to be around people who want to do good things in their life.
Awesome. I've heard this thing about the 5 people that you surround yourself with are going to be the 5 people that influence you the most. But that's very similar when it comes to, like, you make sure you have the right kinds of people around you, so that you can be successful as well. I'm going to set this up now just so you have it in your brain. I also give everybody an opportunity to ask me a question at the end of the podcast. So that way it's not just feeling like I'm just, tidal waving you with a whole bunch of questions. You get to throw one back at me. And so far, every time someone does, I immediately am thrown off by the question. So I don't know why I keep getting flustered. I'm the one saying, like, hey, you have permission to ask me a question. But before we get there, I wanted to talk about the brands, because we're in new territory. Like, we're all owned by Polytech now. And I work out of the Alumilite Galesburg facility. You're down in Florida, and your entire team works remotely, and you guys are with Pro Marine Supplies. Mike Quist from Stone Coat Countertops was just on the podcast. And then we also have ETI. ETI is based out of here as well. We're all siblings now, hanging out and forming kind of like a power team in the mold making and epoxy and resin world. I still don't have the terminology down completely right. But how has this been going for you? Because I know that with any familiar relationships, siblings now, I'm super curious to how you've been navigating the waters, because this is new territory for everybody.
Well, it's definitely been new territory, and it's been something to get kind of used to. And I find it very interesting how they've purchased the different brands and how we're all now going to integrate. And I find that really exciting, because when we can all get on the the same customer service platform, and we can work off of each other and bounce ideas off of each other. I'm really excited about being able to do that with Mike Quist and Mike, and you, of course, with the content creation that you're going to do for us. So yeah, I'm just so excited. I think that every brand does something a little bit the same, but also a little bit different, where they complement each other.
Yeah, they did a good job of assembling different kinds of people.
Absolutely.
Which generally, if those people can get along, you can do incredible things.
Yeah.
So we're after world domination here, from what I keep hearing.
Well, I just had this discussion with Jonathan. I think that they've got pretty much the most popular brands right now in the chemical epoxy space.
Yeah.
They've done a good job picking and choosing.
Yeah, I think so too. It's going to be an exciting journey, and obviously we're just kind of getting started. This is going to be like episode 5 of the podcast, so I'm excited to see what happens even in the time that before this comes out into the world, in like a month from now.
Yeah.
What I kind of wanted to hop around a little bit. I want to go back to your daughters real quick. Obviously, you've been wanting to lead by example when it comes to like, this is how you be a strong woman in this world. This is how you run your own business. This is how you treat people. Make sure you surround yourself with people that are like-minded so that you can be successful yourself. Those things seem to be kind of intrinsically led by example from you. Are there any things that you're trying to instill from like an advice standpoint as well? Like do they come to you like, hey, Mom, how do you do this? And why do you get to work from home? Are they asking you any of those kinds of questions? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're super open with me, so anything that they want to ask me, they just come out and say it, and that can be a good thing sometimes, and it can be a bad thing, but
That's awesome. So what are the things that you're mostly trying to instill in them from like an advice standpoint that you when they are asking you questions?
Definitely, as far as being a good person is really important at the age they're at. They're both in middle school, so I try to instill in them to just be nice to everybody. You don't ever know what someone is going through. Be a good person. Stay away from the crowd that, is talking down on people and bullies. And so that's an important thing I try to instill in them personality-wise. On the other end, on the business side, I really try to instill financial responsibility. And I took my daughter when she turned 13, and we went to open a checking account. And
oh, wow.
We talk about saving and investing, and here's what you can do to earn a little bit of extra money, and, ideas for opening their own business. I said, just because you're 12, 13, 14 years old, it doesn't mean that you can't go out and make money. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's something they're starting to do on a small scale, some dog sitting and dog walking and
that's pretty cool,
nature.
though. I mean, like the reality is, that's why I ask these kinds of questions. Sometimes they seem a little bit off the wall or like might be a little too personal. But the reality is, I think they give a fuller picture of the people that are like running these brands and running these businesses, because it's really easy. I mean, like even like our name on Instagram, Alumilite Corporation. The fact that it has corporation on it, I would like to have it just as Alumilite, but there's a guy in India, I guess, named Alumilite that has it already. But there's connotations that come with business sometimes, or these things that they're too big, or they don't care about us, or they're not real people. When the reality is like, we're very real people, and I would like to give a fuller picture of all the different brands and who's running them and how they actually interact with other people and the kinds of parents that they are and the kind of people that they are, because I think when you kind of pull the curtain back, it's just a bunch of people that are trying to do these businesses and really do right, not, be unethical or something crazy. You know what I mean?
We're not a big, bad, greedy corporation.
No. The reality is like we're a bunch of small businesses that just got bought that want to like really grow and do well, which is really fun. So. This is your opportunity. See, this is pretty painless, right? These aren't really hard questions, and I know you might have been a little nervous, but you've been doing so good through this entire thing. And this is your very first podcast ever?
Yes.
Yes? Cool. Well, now I'm going to have to show you guys how to do podcasts as well, so that you guys can do this down there, because you already have so many different influencers that are using your guys' products, from tumblers to crafts to coasters to art installations. I mean, you guys are all over the place with what people are using your products for. So it'd be great for you guys to be able to do some more interviews, more than just me up here doing that. I'd love to talk with them too, but we can, do more
That would
when
be
we're
awesome.
all doing it.
And I just want to say, even though, we were purchased by Polytech and this was a family business before, I feel like we've kind of fallen into a bigger family. So I'm super excited about the collaboration.
Well, the feeling is mutual. So I appreciate you saying that, because I didn't even know about any of these businesses like 4 months ago. And I've been now a part of the family. I'm like, this is fun. I like everybody here. So that's really cool to hear, because, I think that also helps with how people view us as well. And also everyone still operates that way. That's another thing. Like, I was really suspicious myself. I was like, oh, this is going to be a big corporate job.
Right.
And so far it's been like, hey, what do you need to be successful? And we'll help you build the team that you need. And then you're off to the races doing what you love. And I'm like, what?
Well,
this
I
is
think
not
that
what I've heard
comes
about.
From the great leadership, and
Yeah.
it trickles down.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And that was really one of the cool things that we had with Jonathan on the podcast, because that was pretty evident from him in his leadership style. Okay, so I want to give you the chance to ask me a question. You can ask me anything that you'd like. Nothing's off limits outside of super private things that might be weird. But you can ask me anything you want, and then we'll go ahead and wrap this podcast up, and we can both go back to our normal lives.
Sure. Well, it's got to be about business. So.
Okay. All right. Let's see if I even can help you out with a good question or a good answer.
How did you go from English Lit to where you're at now? Because you're in a super successful position. So how did you get here? Tell me about your journey.
Oh, man. Okay. So after college, I've always wanted to, on a baseline level, help people. I'm a huge people person in general, and I think
had no idea.
Yeah, a lot of people say that, but I'm a big practitioner of that. I am not uncomfortable talking to people in a crowd. Like, if there's a group of people that never met each other before, I'll be the first one to make a fool of myself so that everybody else feels a little bit more comfortable. You got to witness it last night at dinner. I'm okay with giving a little toast if no one's dinner's wrapping up and it's clear, well, what are we gonna do now? I'm like, all right, let me talk for a little bit, that kind of thing. So that's been in me forever. And one of the things that I've kind of realized over the last, since my boys were born, is that I've really got only one shot to do this at scale. So what are the avenues that I can help people be more themselves? And for me, I've had a lot of different jobs that I've been able to do that in different facets. I worked in the restaurant world for a little while, and I really loved being a server because I got to help people have the best night that they possibly could have while they're with me for that little pocket of time. I worked with kids that were autistic for a while, as a caretaker. I loved that job. That job was extremely hard. I was like a third parent for a bit. I've volunteered for about 15 years with the Muscular Dystrophy Association. That's something that I've loved doing. But for the last 5 years, I was a producer at a film company. And the film company's ethics really aligned with who I am as a person. And the stories that they wanted to tell about humans in general, I really resonated with. And I had a lot of opportunity to work with a lot of nonprofits and tell their stories in ways that they wouldn't have been able to do on their own. So it's kind of always been in me. And now I get to do this with our products, really, because one of the first times I sat down with Mike, he was like, hey, we make things so that people can make what they want to make. And he's like, one of my biggest goals is just to help people do what they want to do. And I was like, well, that's definitely in line with who I am as a person and what I believe when it comes to marketing. And over the last 3 years even, I really fell heavily into social media and YouTube and all these other avenues. And I was like, these are tools that can be used for immense good if the person behind it is very intentional about how they use these tools. And I follow people that are really good at doing really great, good, wonderful things. And I was like, I can do that. And I think I can do that as a marketer still, because those are my skills that I've acquired slowly since post-college. So for me, it was a really winding, crazy road to kind of get to where I am at now. But the themes have kind of always been the same throughout every different job that I've had. They were slowly chipping away at some of the ways that I could communicate or how I interacted professionally. And I built up my skills to a point where I knew that I could act with a lot of good intent and make good things happen for my team, myself, and the company that I'm a part of by wanting to help people out there in the world. So that was a really long-winded answer. Hopefully that made sense.
It does.
Okay, cool. Good. Well, Jennifer, I really appreciate you being on this podcast. I can't wait to do some more of these with you. And also, I can't wait to make you a bunch of videos so you guys can go and kick some ass.
We are looking forward to it.
Cool. Thank you.